All right, dear colleagues, can I ask you to take your seats, please? Let's start. This 14th European Parliamentary Week. All right, so good afternoon to you all, dear Marshal of the Sejm of Poland, dear Szymon, dear Marshal of the Senate of Poland, dear Małgorzata, dear speakers and members of Parliament, dear colleagues. It is truly a pleasure to welcome you all to Brussels for the 14th Parliamentary Week in the European Parliament and the first under this new legislature of the European Parliament. This is the largest gathering of national and European parliaments, and this year I must say we have a fantastic turnout with over 140 members from all 34 chambers of the member states, as well as Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Turkey and Norway. So thank you all very much for being here. Let me also give a special thank you to Szymon and Małgorzata and to your colleagues from the Polish Sejm and Senate. Because you are co-organising this event with us under Poland's presidency of the Council. And when we met in Warsaw last December, you gave us, me and my colleagues, leaders of the parliamentary groups, a very warm welcome. So it is truly my pleasure to welcome you here today. This gathering couldn't be more timely. People across Europe are looking to us, to parliaments, to deliver. They want to see action. They don't want to see words. They want to see solutions, not excuses. And they want to ultimately feel that their vote makes a difference. Last June, when we ran for the European Parliament elections, they were my 5th European Parliament elections. And everywhere I went, the message was the same. People are worried about the cost of living. People are worried about jobs. People are worried about security. And they want their leaders to move faster, to be bolder, and to get things ultimately done. In the past month, we've seen the new Trump White House issue a flurry of executive orders, and the contrast with our cautious, consensus-driven processes here in Europe could not be starker. And whether we agree with what is happening across the Atlantic or not, the perception is that things are being shaken up. Now, as lawmakers, we have too often allowed the ordinary business of politics to appear slow and stagnant, as if nothing could ever get done. And by doing so, we've left a space to those on the fringes to present themselves as champions of speed and direction. So let's be clear. Parliamentary democracy is the best model we have. But it's up to us, collectively, all of us, to prove that it works. And that means cutting through the noise, pushing past political divides and focusing on what really matters, our long-term success. We are the world's largest single market. We are a global economic powerhouse. We have a highly skilled, highly educated workforce. Our levels of inequality are among the lowest, and our life expectancy is among the highest. But we cannot be complacent. The challenge now is to secure these gains for the future. We know what needs to be done. Mario Draghi, Enrico Letta and others have laid it out, but now we need the political courage to do what is necessary. That starts with creating the best conditions for businesses and innovation to flourish. Overly complex laws, however well-intended, often end up hurting the very people and businesses we are trying to help. In the last few years, if you look just at the last mandate, we've passed 13,000 pieces of legislation. This compared to 3,000 in the United States. This is simply not sustainable. So instead of focusing on more rules. I say we focus on better rules. The simplification package that is coming up soon, and we are waiting for it from the Commission, we expect it to be able to cut red tape so that our companies can scale up and not get bogged down by the bureaucracy. It's not just us saying it, everybody is saying it, member state by member state, wherever you go. This, together with the competitiveness compass and the upcoming multi-annual financial framework, we have a chance to boost Europe's economy, to create quality jobs and to make people's lives easier. We are the co-legislator here, so as co-legislator we will do our part to push for real change, which is what our voters asked us to do when they placed us in these positions of responsibility last June. They voted ultimately for a new way of doing things. The single market is Europe's greatest success story. But in key areas like banking, capital markets and energy, we still have 27 separate markets. And that fragmentation is holding us back. If we want to be able to compete globally, we need to integrate further, because only that integration will keep prices down and get private investment up. Growth also means strengthening ties with others, starting with our closest neighbours, many of whom are in our room today. Every enlargement has brought challenges, but also economic benefits. And yet, in the last decade, and think about this, in the last decade, the European Union has lost more members than it gained. And this is something we need to reflect on. This is something that we need to answer for. It is our responsibility and duty to do so, because if we stand still, it's very clear others will fill the void. The European Union is one of the most open economies in the world, and trade has been a major driver of our prosperity. Ultimately, trade wars benefit nobody. But we must be ready for any scenario. Europe must use its global weight to unlock new trade deals that expand our market and create win-win opportunities. Final words. Dear colleagues, I have been a member of this European Parliament for 11 years now. And I must say I'm proud of how far we have come, but I've also seen what happens when we take our voters for granted. This Parliament has seen what happens when voters are taken for granted. We cannot keep going as before, just because, as we like to say it, we say it often in Brussels, that's the way things have always been done. People don't want empty words. People want action. They want proof that through dialogue and compromise, we can build a better future. And there's no better opportunity for us to do this, for you to spend the next couple of days with members of the European Parliament coming from your country or coming from your neighbouring countries, or members you've never met before. But you will see that the challenges are the same, wherever you come from and whatever your background. I think at the end of the day, our citizens want proof that through dialogue and through compromise, we can build a better future. That's our challenge, and that's our responsibility. The choice ultimately is ours, and the time is now. Thank you. Now it's my honour to give the floor to the Marshal of the Sejm of the Republic of Poland, Szymon Hołownia. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Roberta. We will be delivering our speeches in our mother tongue, in our national language, so I will switch to Polish quickly. And I know that Roberta, my dear friend, knows Polish very well so far, so
Fluent.
They will be fluent. There will be no need for interpretation here. Drodzy Państwo, Szanowna Pani Przewodnicząca.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear President, dear Marshal, and all the members of the Parliament here, the staff of the EU institutions, everybody to whom Europe is dear today. I'm very glad, and of course it's a great honor for me that as a part of Polish presidency we can be co-responsible for the discussion that is taking place in Europe today, but most of all for the decisions that we have to take in Europe today. I don't think there is any doubt as to what a difficult and challenging situation Europe is today. We are less and less competitive compared to other huge economies. Electricity in Europe is 5 times more expensive than in the US and twice as expensive as in China. 4 out of 50 EU huge technological companies are European companies. And this is really an alarm bell for us to start thinking not how to make Europe great again, because Europe is already great and we do not need anyone to preach to us and tell us how to reach this goal in a paternalistic way. No, but Europe should be proud again of its potential, of its size and of its heritage. It cannot be that we produce, in quotation marks, the best and the most creative brains in the world. I will soon be opening an exhibition about Poland as the Republic of Innovation. Wojciech Zaremba, who was one of the co-founders of ChatGPT. Marta Karczewicz, thanks to her we have Netflix and high-quality streaming, all the things that we use every day. Before, Józef Kosacki from my region, who constructed a mine decoding device used for so many armies, so many Poles working within artificial intelligence, the area which will decide on the future of the world. However, why do we let, as Europe, because it's our common responsibility, why do we let 30%, 1/3 of the startups which are worth more than 1 billion euros to leave Europe because of the red tape, over-regulation, the bureaucratic endeavors? So why do we let this to happen, that in the last dozen of years, about a half of huge technological companies created in or active in the US moved there from Europe, half of them. Why? Because the European funds were not agile enough. They were not good enough to finance them in the perspective they needed. Because after one round of financing, they already wanted profits. In the US, they were waiting for 6 or 7 rounds to get the profits. And they can have these great companies now. And now we have to say we're checking what's going on, because now we hear the questions from the other side of the Atlantic that we have not heard for a long time. And we have to answer these questions. We cannot say that we used to be great. We have to show our power, the power of the market, which has 500 million people, the power of the most creative market in the world, the power of a community based on values. Because today, yes, it is others who create artificial intelligence, but still, many are jealous and envious of the regulations that we shape so that the artificial intelligence still serves a human being and not takes away its future and perspectives. We are those who should tell the world very clearly that hope is more important than fear. If we talk with many citizens, European citizens today, in many countries, they do not see, they do not identify activity of the EU. They only see fear and not being able to cooperate well, because each and every country is too much afraid that the extremists will gain power. So there is only one way out here. This is a chance, this is an opportunity to go forward, to go, as Mario Draghi said in his report, 800 billion euros invested by Europe in Europe. How much longer can we tolerate this leakage, as you would say it in the fiscal language? 70% of defense spending is used out of the EU. We are financing defense budgets of other countries. We are not developing our own capabilities. So Europe has to invest in itself and hugely. It has to invest in its identity and be proud to say, we are Europeans. What does it mean? That the human being will always be most important and cooperation will always be the most important thing, not competing, not the rat race, because this is why we want to teach our children to cooperate and not to compete at school. Because if these few guys who created Apple company, if they were just being rivals, then, well, they wouldn't go far. And instead of Apple and all those new technologies, maybe we would have just some old-style bicycles, nothing else. This is the challenge of today. How to make sure that the US, if they have one tank, it's okay, but we shouldn't have 12 different types of tanks. So what to do so that we can have as much energy as we need in the EU, and so that energy will not be the doom of the EU, because soon everything in Europe will be about the prices of energy. If we cannot negotiate, as Poland, for example, to stay away from ETS for at least some time, then it will start damaging Europe, and it will give a chance to those who want to damage Europe and who do not care about the European project. Right now, we have enemies outside and within, and we are faced with a huge question today. What kind of Europe we want to leave behind us? And we have to answer it now, in this term of the European Parliament and of the Member States' parliaments. We cannot wait any more longer. We need leadership, and we need to answer the questions: where to get the cheap energy, how to restart energy to cooperate and to defend its values. But most of all, we should be saying in Europe more and more often that if you can count on yourself. You should count on yourself. And this is how we should start each and every conversation on how to unlock the European potential. At the end, ladies and gentlemen, something not only about the numbers, statistical data, but I have a feeling when I look at what has happened recently, not only me probably, that we have been terrorized, that we live in the sort of Stockholm syndrome towards those who threaten us today, and those who build the whole idea of humanity, basing it on fear. And we allowed them to show us that there is not always hope, that we can profit also in this way. Right now in Europe, we just want to limit our losses, and we want to react to threats that are posed by someone else. But it cannot be so that Vladimir Putin, as President Zelensky said in Munich, he cannot be the most important person in the NATO if he is the one to decide who can join NATO or not. No. And can he decide whether in Europe and in Poland we should have American forces or not? No. We cannot let it go. We cannot let the control over our European community and European future go away today. We do not have to implement Make Europe Great Again, because Europe is great. But if we give it up on our own, then the policy of Make Russia Great Again will proceed in our continent, country by country, economy by economy. So maybe it's good that we are in this deep crisis now. I'm not talking about the war in Ukraine, of course, but I'm talking about the problems that we have among each other, because maybe this will give us a chance to make a huge civilizational leap, and not only the business as usual, as Roberta said. We, as the Parliament's Sejm and Senate, I think Marshal Kidawa will also talk about it, we are ready to cooperate everywhere, in every form, so that we can make Europe more simple, more understandable, and to make it a continent that invests in itself and its own hope, not only reacts when it is afraid. Thank you so much, and I hope we will have great discussions, and I hope that our presidency and leadership, which is not being questioned today, that it will lead us to finding solutions to the problems that we have. And these problems, they start in our heads and our approaches, not necessarily in the numbers. We have to believe in ourselves again. We have to be people of hope, or we are doomed. But I hope we will do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Simon. And now I'm delighted to introduce the Marshal of the Senate of the Republic of Poland, Małgorzata Kidawa-Błońska. The floor is yours.
Szanowni Państwo, jak co roku...
Ladies and gentlemen, like every year, we are meeting here among the members of parliaments to talk about European economy. We well know that the basic problem facing Europe today is defense and strengthening our security. But there is no security of Europe without a strong integrated economy. We do not have to, as Marshal Hołownia said a moment ago, make Europe great again. Europe was and is great. It will stay great under one condition, that we will not let others divide us and that we will keep working in solidarity. A huge power and value of European integration, its driving force, it's the common market. The freedom of trade and capital flows was the building stone of European integration. It made Europe an economic power. 1/5 of the global GDP and 30% of the world's export are in the EU. The EU is the most advanced integrational project in the world today. It's an inspiration and a role model for other countries from many parts of the world. Europe was able to integrate thanks to the fact that for 80 years it has been developing in peace and stabilization. Our guarantee to maintain peace is to be able to fend off any potential aggressors. And I'm afraid that during the last few years we were under a delusion, believing that war in Europe is not possible. The Russian aggression on Ukraine became a dramatic alarm bell, reminding us that the most important task of politicians is to take care of security of their countries. In face of global challenges, we cannot just close ourselves in our national borders. We have to think about security of the EU as a whole. Our economy, our defense industry, our ability to innovate are necessary for common security. As the EU, we are spending much more for defense than China or Russia. However, I agree with our allies on the other side of Atlantic that it's not enough. It is our duty to make sure our citizens are safe and all the others who share our values and want to join us. The great Europe can afford to show its power as many times in history, not in order to destroy, but in order to construct, to build. We are a role model not only because we are well off, but also because we are a community of values. Europe means democracy, means the rule of law, liberty and equality of citizens. But the power of Europe must be built on our innovations and ability to compete in the global market. That is why the best response to the geopolitical challenges of today is more European cooperation with less barriers, with intelligent solutions adjusted to a new digital reality. Deepening integration within the common market, within the Eurozone and accession of new member states are a recipe for the best further development of the EU's economy. Ladies and gentlemen, we are lucky because we live in the best place to live in the earth. And this is thanks to our ability to build, to construct, to take care of our citizens and to cherish freedom. Europe, shaped by the nightmare of two world wars, was able to rebuild its greatness. And one of the cornerstones of this greatness is being certain that we need to be united. Also today, we have to strengthen this approach. The best guarantee for the forces of evil and for the enemies of freedom not to divide us is the power of our economy. We can achieve it giving the enterprises the best conditions to produce better, to be more effective, more innovative, to offer better goods and solutions better than those offered by others. We have to make sure that Europe is a place where economic growth and innovation, especially digital information, will be supported in a very intensive way. In the past, we said that we have to choose whether invest in security or in welfare. It is obvious today that the EU must do both. Our task as the members of parliaments is to convince our citizens that it is only through strong European economy we can make sure Europe is secure in all its elements, external, internal, economic, IT, energy, food or health related. And these are also the priorities of our presidency. Europe created the community of the West and the community of democracy. The EU is today a cornerstone of the democratic world. It is also a hope for many people, millions of people in the whole world. They hope that Europe can defend peace and that you can live in dignified conditions everywhere. To give a secure future to this community, we have to build the power of European economy. It's a challenge, but I'm sure that we can do it together. And I'm also sure that the discussions and meetings today will contribute to finding many good solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Malgorzata. Thank you, Simon, for your welcoming words for this opening session. Regrettably, President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, was not able to join us this afternoon since he had to leave Brussels for an urgent meeting in Paris. So this is the end of this opening session. However, over the next 2 days, we will be diving very deep into many of the issues we've just touched upon. Tomorrow, we will be joined by Mario Draghi, who will discuss with us how we can boost EU competitiveness through the single market, through innovation policy, better regulation and quality jobs. And then it will be followed by a discussion on the first national plans under the revised economic governance framework. Later today, there will be 3 interparliamentary committee meetings starting at 4:20 in the Antal building, so on the other side. Also, may I remind you that tonight you are very warmly invited to our official dinner, which is co-hosted by the European and Polish parliaments. This will be at 7:30 in the members' salon on the ground floor of the Spinelli building. And now, in just a few moments, Simon mentioned this earlier, we will be opening the Republic of Innovation exhibition organised by the Polish Parliament on the 3rd floor of the Spinelli building. So thank you very much for you all to be here, and I wish you a very successful European Parliamentary Week.